What do you call a fat jack-o'-lantern? Dun-dun-dun-dun-dun. A plumpkin. Why do pumpkins just sit around on the porch? Because they don't have any hands to knock on the door. What happens when you eat too much pumpkin pie? You get an tummy ache. Hello, my sweet friends. Welcome back. It is so good to see you all. I hope this finds you all well and happy and that you are ready to do a little Halloween, fall, autumnal crafting. We're going to jump into 3 super cute projects today that can be used for Halloween or they can be used for your just all-purpose fall decor. So without further ado, y'all, let's get to crafting. Our first project today is going to be so fun. This is going to be a cute, whimsical, playful project. We're gonna work out in the wood shop on this because we're gonna create some really darling wooden jack-o'-lanterns. I think y'all are really gonna love this project, so let's not waste any more time. Let's get started.
These are the little cuties that we are going to be making, and I am going to walk y'all through step by step how we made these. So the first thing that I had to do was get all of the wood cut to size. There were 21 pieces in all to cut because each jack-o'-lantern had 7 pieces. So I just set to work cutting out all of our pieces. Phew, 21 pieces is a lot of pieces to cut out. After getting all of the pieces cut out, the next thing that I did was take all of these to my laser cutter and cut these darling little faces out of each piece, out of each section. So we're gonna have 3 jack-o'-lanterns, so I cut 3 different faces, and aren't these faces so cute? I just love them. They're so happy, and I will have the pattern for these available for y'all as a free download. You can find the link to that in the description box. Okay, so Michael came out and helped me at this point because I was having a really hard time getting these pieces put together, because one of the things that I get a little bit frustrated with our laser cutter. We have the X-Tool M1 laser cutter, and I love it for so many projects, but a lot of times the wood is really thin because you can only cut a certain thickness on that laser cutter. So these were really thin, and as a result, I was really struggling to get them put together. I kept shooting the nails all the way through, and they just weren't connecting. So Michael was so sweet to come out and give me a helping hand with this, and he made it look so easy. I was like, come on, the struggle was really real here for me. And then he comes out and just makes it look easy peasy, lemon squeezy. So to assemble our lanterns, we are using some wood glue and some pin nails to do this. So we first started by connecting the 2 side pieces to the back piece. And then of course we pin nailed each one of these. This is kind of just gives us that extra reinforcement while the wood glue is setting up. So after we got the 3 side or the back piece and the 2 side pieces connected, we came in with the front piece, our cute little face piece here, and assembled it the same way, just putting some wood glue on, reinforcing it with some pin nails, and then we will come in and put all of the bottoms on. And then after the bottoms are on, we'll work on assembling the top pieces. Okay, y'all, so for our stems on these cute little jack-o'-lanterns, we had this really cool branch that Michael and I found on one of our walks last year, I think. So it's been sitting in our wood bin pile for quite some time, but I loved this branch because it has all this moss growing off of it. And this is like actual real live moss. So I just thought that was so cool and added such an extra special touch to our stems. Okay, so now Michael is getting the bottoms put onto each one of our little lanterns here, and we are doing that same exact process, using some wood glue to do this, and then come in with the pin nails. And y'all, this was fiddly, I'm not gonna lie. It was a little bit of a struggle. We had several nails that just went through on the wrong side, poked out the sides. We had to pull some nails, start over again. It was tricky because of the thinness of this wood. So next time I do something like this, I'll probably just use thicker wood and cut the faces out on my scroll saw. Either that or we're going to have to get a bigger laser cutter. All right, so now we're working on the tops, and I just want to make sure that we have perfect center on our tops so that we can get our stem perfectly centered and get these pieces, attached to one another centered. So Michael's just coming in with this handy little trick. You just make the little crisscross. This is wonderful for squares. Make your little crisscross, and then X marks the spot to get dead center. And then we will go ahead and pre-drill all of our pieces before attaching them together. Now that we have pre-drilled everything, we're going to go ahead and attach the smaller top piece to our larger top piece with some wood glue, just to give this lots of extra hold. And yeah, I think we're going to have plenty of hold here. That was a lot of glue. That's like me. I always go way overboard with glue, and usually Michael goes the opposite, but he didn't this time. He was channeling his Alicia, I guess. All right, so to attach these, we're going to glue the two top pieces together, make sure we get them centered. But to do that, we're going to first get our screw going in here, and this will help us line everything up, make sure everything is perfectly centered. We'll kind of get everything situated and adjusted, and then screw on the stem. Ta-da! The big reveal. Oh my gosh, y'all. Aren't these just so darling? I really love the faces on these. I just think the faces are so happy, which makes me happy. All right, now that our lanterns have been completely assembled, we're going to go ahead and take these back into the studio and get them all stained. And to stain these, I am just using some black chalk paint that I have watered down quite a bit. It's mostly water and very little paint, to be honest, because I wanted these to have that really old, weathered, sort of grayish look to them. So I really did water my paint down quite a bit. And then I just started staining. Now, in hindsight, I really wish that I had stained all of these pieces before we assembled these, because it was not too hard to get the outside stained, but I did want the inside parts stained as well, so that we had that nice, black for our faces. And the inside was a little bit tricky, took a little bit of time. I did get it done, but yeah, in hindsight, I would have stained these before assembling. All right, y'all, so who doesn't love a little instant gratification? So with the magic of our paintbrush, ta-da, these are all finished. And I just have to say, they're pretty darn cute.
Are these not the cutest jack-o'-lanterns? I love them. I think they turned out so cute. They're so sweet. I really love their darling little faces. These are a lot of fun, and I think it's going to be fun to put some lights in these and see what they look like all lit up. Y'all, let me know what you think of this project. is no way we can have a Halloween project or some Halloween crafts without making some sort of super cute hat. So for this next project, we are going to work on a wizard hat, and then we're gonna create a fun little pumpkin with a cute, happy little face to go with our wizard hat. So a pumpkin, this is gonna be a pumpkin wearing hat project. Okay, y'all, so for this project, I'm very excited. We are going to create a really fun, cute wizard hat that we will place atop one of our pumpkins. So you will need fabric of your choice. You're gonna need some really good cutting scissors, fabric cutting scissors. You'll need some pins, and of course you're going to need your pattern. I found my pattern on Etsy, so I will have the shop where I found this linked in the description box for y'all if you're interested. This pattern is so nice. I really, really do love the pattern, and I think it's going to be very easy for us to assemble. So I have gone ahead, just to save us a little bit of time, I have gone ahead and cut out all of my pieces. So when you get your pattern, it's going to be it's going to come as a PDF, and it will be on 8 sheets of printer paper, and then you kind of have to just piece all of your pieces together. But the Etsy shop owner made it so simple. I mean, she literally gives you all the precise, clear instructions on which pieces fit together. So for the brim of our hat, I am using this really beautiful green velvet. So for the brim of our hat, you need to actually cut, let's see, you need to actually cut 2 of them. 2 of them out. She also gives you an amazing cut diagram so that you can lay everything out perfectly on your fabric and get just a perfect cut pattern so that you don't waste any fabric. It was amazing. Yeah, I'm really impressed with this pattern. And then you'll need to cut 1 facing piece on the fold. Your brims are also cut on the fold. And then you will only need 1 cone or crown. I guess this would be called the crown. You only need to cut 1 out, but you do need to cut it on the fold. So now we're going to go ahead and move on to my favorite part, and that is actually assembling and putting it all together. Okay, so the very first step is to work on our brim pieces. We are going to put right sides together. Very important to make sure right sides are together. And then we are going to take these to the sewing machine, and we're just gonna sew a straight stitch all the way down. And we're gonna do that for both pieces.
Okay, I bet y'all can't guess what I'm going to do next. If you've been with me for a while, you know that when I am sewing, my pinking shears are my best friend. So I'm going to go ahead and clean up my seam edge here. Just by using my pinking shears, this helps eliminate a bunch of extra bulk. It helps prevent fraying. And when we go to flip this right side out, it just gives us a nice clean transition without all that extra bulk in the seam. Okay, y'all, so now we're going to go ahead and get our face piece and our cone closed together. So you want to take those 2 open sides, fold them in half so that the open sides are together facing, and make sure that your right sides are facing each other. You don't want to make that mistake because then it'll just make a mess. And then we are just going to pin this and sew straight down that open side. And we're going to do the exact same thing for our facing piece. And just like that, they have been sewn together, and I'm going to go ahead and clean up that bulky seam with my pinking shears. Okay, so now we need to get our 2 brim pieces sewn together. So we're just going to take these and again put them right sides together, and then I'm going to and you also want to make sure that that seam, our back seam that we have, that both of those seams are completely lined up with one another. We want to keep those seams together. And then I'll just go ahead and pin this all the way around. Now that we have our 2 brim pieces all pinned together or clipped together, we're going to take it to the sewing machine and sew all the way around the outside only. Do not sew that inside because this is where we're going to attach our cone and face piece. So again, we're just going to take this to the sewing machine, use a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and sew all the way around the outside of this brim. Something to keep in mind when you come to the end of your project, don't forget to do your lock stitch, and you also want to do that at the very beginning. Okay, so our sewing is done on the brim, and now we're going to go ahead and flip this right sides out. And I did take my time to make sure I got all of my seams poked out really well so that in the end I had a nice round shape. Now I did not iron this because I was not sure if I could actually iron this velvet. I could have maybe, you know, protected it by putting a sheet over it, but I was a little worried that the iron would just that the heat would just sort of make a mess of the velvet. So I just didn't iron it at all. And I think we're going to be okay here. All right, so we're also going to make sure that our cone, the top part of our hat, the cone part, is also flipped right side out. And now we're going to go ahead and start getting these attached. This part is a little bit fiddly. It just takes a little bit of patience, but have fun and trust the process. So again, you want to make sure that those back seams are all lined up with one another. And then you're going to push your cone through the brim of the hat so that the cone is like almost facing up to the top. We'll go ahead and get this whole thing pinned in place. And then after that is completely pinned in place, I'm just going to go all the way around. So now that that's pinned into place, we're going to go ahead and attach the facing. Now this really truly was fiddly, y'all. I struggled a little bit with this because at first I just wasn't sure I understood how to sew it together. But once I just took my time to really read the pattern and just process it, it really wasn't as hard as I was trying to make it originally. So we're just going to don't do what I just tried to do. We're going to come in from the top of our cone and slip this facing piece over the cone with right sides together. So the wrong side of your facing should be facing, the wrong side of the face piece should be facing out towards you. We're going to slip this over and tuck that whole brim inside until we get that initial place where we pinned our cone together. We want those to match up. So I'm just going to go ahead and add that to my clip. So I clipped the cone into place first because I thought that would be the easiest. And then I just come in and add the facing piece to my clips. I really hope this makes sense, y'all. The pattern, it is very clearly written in the pattern. So if you have to refer to the pattern, do so. I do recommend you do that. And it kind of helps to sort of see what I'm doing as well. All right, so now I have that pinned all together, and this is what it should look like. Your brim is sort of sandwiched between that face piece and your cone, and the cone should be at the top. So now we're going to go ahead and take this to the sewing machine, and we're going to sew that whole thing all the way around. I did use a 1/2 inch seam allowance here just because I wanted to make sure that I caught everything. And I do suggest that when you are sewing this together that you do this on the inside rather than trying to sew it on the outside. Okay, that was a really long-winded little speech there. All right, yeah, this velvet dyed my hands. My hands were all weird and green. Okay, so now we've got everything sewn together, and I'm just going around to make sure that I did catch all of my seams and that everything is well attached. Okay, so at this point you want to flip everything right sides out again, and that face piece should be tucked up inside. Then I flipped everything inside out again because I didn't like the way that facing piece just sort of flopped down, so I wanted to glue it into place. So I flipped it inside out, glued that facing piece into place with some fabric glue, gave it some time to set up, turned everything right side out again, and now I'm going to go ahead and stuff the cone just to give it a little extra sturdiness because it was pretty floppy, and the brim is really floppy too, which I wanted my brim to be floppy, but if you don't want a floppy brim, you can add some interfacing or some batting into that, which the pattern actually does call for, but I liked the floppy brim. Okay, so now I've got this stuffed. I didn't stuff it very much, but now I just kind of want to fiddle with this and play with it to get my hat to just kind of bend and curve the way I wanted. And once I did that, I sort of glued it all into place. You could also you could do a whip stitch and just tack it together too. And now we're going to add a little tiny embellishment to the tip of this. I just ran some really tiny jute cording through the end of this with an upholstery needle or a doll needle. Any of those types of just bigger needles will work. And then I'm just going to tie the bell to the end of this, put a good knot in it, and we have a tiny little embellishment on the end of our hat. And I just think this is so cute. I definitely feel like it was worth all the effort. I mean, it did take a little bit of time, but in the end, it was so well worth it because I love how the hat turned out.
Then we have this guy. Oh my goodness, so very cute. I really love the hat. The hat is just a ton of fun. And at first I wasn't sure if I liked the floppy brim, but now that I have it on the pumpkin, I think the floppy brim is just so fun, and it adds a lot of whimsy to this sweet little guy. Yep, I think he's pretty darn cute. Seeing some of the coolest pumpkins in the markets lately, the heirloom pumpkins. I'm sure you've all seen them as well, and I just love them. I love all the different color palettes that these pumpkins come in. And I thought for this next project, it would be fun to try to recreate some of our own heirloom pumpkins. And these ones won't get mushy and rotten. They'll keep forever. That's the best part about this project.
To get started with our heirloom pumpkins, the very first thing I want to do is give them a good base coat of color. And I am using some Waverly chalk paint here. This one I am painting in the color sandstone, and then I paint, so I'm doing 4 in total, and then so I paint 2 in sandstone, and then I will paint 2 in the moss green. So the main thing to do here is just make sure that you have a good base coat down on these. It did take 2 coats of paint for me to fully cover this original orange color. I am really loving my magic paintbrushes today. These are sort of a beautiful thing. It's really helping to speed up this whole painting process. I love it. Okay, y'all, so I've got 2 coats of the base color down on all 4 of our pumpkins, and I let it dry thoroughly. So now we're going to move on to doing my absolute favorite part, and that is just adding a lot of depth and dimension and character to these to give them that as close as we can, realistic heirloom pumpkin look. So the first thing I did was come in with a damp paper towel and a slightly darker color. So this original color was that sandstone. So I took some sandstone and some raw umber, sort of mixed them together, and then just kind of came in with my damp paper towel and just did a light brushing all around the whole pumpkin. Now I want to come in and sort of deepen the very top part of this where the stem connects to the pumpkin. This top part would be, in the realistic pumpkins, this is the darkest part. So I came in and just brushed on a little bit of that dark part with a damp brush. Now, this is where we're really going to have fun and see these pumpkins come to life. So for this step, I am just taking my paintbrush and I am dipping one side in a darker brown color and the other side in that original sandstone color. And then I wet my brush with a spray bottle and just start blending the paint. And the two colors kind of just create this beautiful natural blend, and I love how this works together. I think the important thing here is to keep your brush really wet. So I am constantly spraying my brush. When my paint starts to, get that skipped, like it's skipping and it's not blending very well, that's because your brush is a little too dry. So I do add a little bit of water, and then I just keep doing this blending technique with one color on one side of my brush and one color on the other side. And I think this is just looking beautiful. So once I get these two colors down, I let that dry, and then I came back in with that darker brown color and a tiny bit of green, and I did that same exact step to just give this even more depth and even more dimension. It's just a fun process of just blending two colors of paint together. So again, I've just got one side of my brush dipped in one color, the other dipped in another color, and then I wet my brush down with the spray bottle and just start blending, and it just naturally blends. And I love painting this way because it just creates such a beautiful effect, but yet it's so easy. And then after all of that was done, I did want to come in and just darken up that top section just a little bit. So I did that same exact thing, two colors on my brush with a wet brush, and just sort of blended this out and so until it sort of faded into the rest of the pumpkin. Okay, I hope y'all are still with me. That was a lot of talking. All right, so after all four of my pumpkins have been painted in that same exact way, they all four kind of came out a little bit different, but I love that. I love how they each have their own individuality. So after I let them thoroughly dry, I am coming back in with some Waverly clear wax, and I just seal all of these with a wax brush and a little bit of that. And you can see the difference here. So this is the side, the half that I have sealed, and that top half has not been sealed. And you can see the difference, and I love how it just gives it that little extra bit of sheen. Okay, so now we're going to just do a tiny little bit of embellishing on my pumpkins, and I really am going to try to keep this very simple. So I'm just adding a little bit of this wired jute to my stem on this pumpkin, and then I make a little curly Q at the end, and then I will glue it into place with some hot glue. After I got the stem and the little curly Q put into place, I kind of started thinking, I think I want a little tiny bit of moss on this, but I didn't want to do too much. I really did want these to just have a very simplistic, natural look to them. So I did come in and add a little moss. Now, this step may not have been necessary because they really did look super cool and super great before I added the moss. So I think this is just one of those personal preferences. You can either add the moss or don't add the moss. Just either way, do you here and create this to your liking, your tastes, and your style. Again, I did just add a little bit of moss. I just did a little bit of playing here, and I kind of added some in here and there until I felt like it was enough. And then I added, to finish it off, I just added a little tiny bit to the stem, and I think it looks pretty good. I really do love how these turned out.
Well, I really think the heirloom pumpkins turned out pretty good. Not bad for just using faux pumpkins and a whole bunch of paint. I loved this process. This was so much fun for me to make. I don't know if I could say it was my favorite, but I really did enjoy the whole painting process. Anytime I get to paint something, it's fun for me because I do love painting so much. I think they turned out really good. They look pretty close to a lot of the heirloom pumpkins that I've been seeing in the market. So honestly, I don't think they turned out too bad for some faux heirloom pumpkins. And this one is definitely my favorite. I love the shape of it, and I loved that I was able to put my own stem on it, because the other ones, the stems are just too short, but I couldn't take them off. I was gonna try to cut them out and then just put some different stems in, but it would have been kind of a process. So we're just gonna go with it, but they did all turn out great. I really am happy with this project. I would love to hear your thoughts. All in all, I would have to say that all three of our projects turned out so fun. They're all great. They all have so much character and so much personality, and I couldn't be any happier with how our projects turned out today. These were all so fun to make. I enjoyed the process of each and every single one of them. I don't know if I have a favorite because I think I like them all pretty equal. They all have their own character and their own personality, and so I think that just gives each one an individual thing that I like so much about each specific piece. So I don't know if I have a favorite. I am curious though, do y'all have a favorite from today's projects? Alrighty friends, well I guess that is going to wrap up our projects for today. This was a lot of fun. We created 3 super cute projects and I think they all turned out amazing. I love them all. I really do appreciate all of you being here with me today. It was so fun to have you here as we did some crafting together. I always love your company and appreciate that you take time out of your day to come and hang with me. I look forward to seeing you all again next week. We're going to jump into part 3 of our fall series, or part 4. Well, I don't know if we want to count this one as part 3, maybe. So it's either going to be 3 or 4. At any rate, the fall crafting continues next week. So y'all come back and see me again next week. Until then, take care and I will see y'all soon. Bye. I'm supposed to be a pumpkin. I think that's what I am, a pumpkin. And this is my little pumpkin top and my little pumpkin stems and curls, or not stems, because these wouldn't be stems. They would be the pumpkin tendrils. What are those little curly things on a pumpkin called? I have no idea.
Congratulations, Linda and Victoria, for winning the candles from last week's drawing. Please reach out to me via my email, which is linked in the description box, to claim your prize.